I was pinned down by two security guards in the center of a River North French restaurant in Chicago.
Oh.
The manager slid the bill in front of me, voice low but loud enough for everyone nearby.
Oh.
Ms. Emily Carter, last chance card or consequences, he said, eyes fixed without any hesitation. Ah! The lights hit me like a spotlight, locking me in place as phones surrounded me from every direction. People were already streaming, whispers turning into excitement, waiting to see how publicly this would end. I looked down at the cardathon. Blake had taken it earlier, then placed it back himself.
Oh.
He told me it was my birthday, that tonight's bill was his. Something rare, almost gentle. Now I understood that moment was when he quietly removed every possible way I could escape tonight. I looked up to find him standing nearby, arm wrapped around Ashley like this was rehearsed. Time's up, he said calmly, like announcing something already decided long before this evening began. She can't pay. We follow policy, he added, and the crowd immediately burst into reactions. This is insane, someone said, while others leaned closer. Don't stop. Let's see this play out. Slee stepped forward in heels, her expression carrying the glow of someone who just won everything.
I'll be you.
You always loved freezing other people's accounts, she said, tilting her head slightly toward me. Now it's your turn, she finished before throwing an entire glass of red wine directly into my face. The wine ran down my lashes slowly, dripping, but I didn't wipe it away or move at all. I just looked at Ethan, waiting for something human, anything that still resembled what we once were. He finally looked back at me, then said something that silenced the room for one brief second. She's not my wife anymore. Never really was, he said, and then the entire place erupted laughing. In that moment, the last piece of identity I had left was stripped away in front of everyone. The laughter crashed over me like waves, but strangely, that was when I stopped feeling afraid. Give me 10 minutes, I said, voice steady despite everything collapsing around me in public. Ashley laughed louder, this time almost delighted. You're stalling. No one's coming for you. I ignored her completely, turned to a woman I had once worked with, and held out my hand. Your phone, I said simply. She hesitated, then gave it to me, stepping back immediately after. I made only one call. Now bring it in. 10 minutes, I said without explaining anything further. The voice on the other end responded calmly, already moving, then hung up without another word. The crowd started mocking again. Who would come? No one crosses Blake Group, someone shouted. Ethan added, anyone who helps her becomes my problem. And that sentence changed everything instantly. People who had hesitated now leaned back, distancing themselves like I had become something dangerous. I was completely isolated. The countdown began 10 minutes, 9, 8, ticking down without mercy. By the 5th minute, Ashley grew impatient, her smile tightening. Stop wasting everyone's time. The manager glanced at her, nodded, and the guards moved in again, this time without restraint. Hands grabbed my collar, slamming me toward the table as glass shattered loudly across the floor. My shoulder was pinned, fabric tearing near my ear while voices around me grew louder and sharper. Do it! Come on! She asked for it. People shouted, feeding off each other's cruelty. Someone reached toward me, struck back instinctively, but 2 hands forced me down immediately after. I stopped struggling, eyes locked on the entrance. 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute remaining. Ashley began counting, smiling wider. 5, 4, 3. As the manager raised his hand slightly, my shoulder was pulled open further, cold air hitting my skin as laughter peeked across the room. Just as she was about to say to, the doors slammed open violently, echoing across the entire restaurant. A full team of black-suited security stormed in, tearing people away from me with precise efficiency. Everyone froze, confused, trying to understand what had just changed so suddenly. A woman walked in behind them, heels sharp against the floor, and recognition hit the room instantly. Faces shifted. Fear replaced curiosity. She stopped directly in front of me without wasting a second. Ms. Carter, funds are here, she said quietly, but with authority that didn't need raising. A black case was placed down, opened, revealing stacks of cash arranged with absolute precision inside. It felt like every laugh from moments ago was being crushed, layer by layer, under that sight. I stood up slowly, adjusting my torn clothes carefully, fingers steady, every movement controlled and deliberate. I looked at Ashley. What you said earlier, does that still stand? I asked calmly. Her face had already drained of color. I don't have to do anything, she said, voice shaking. I smiled faintly. But you said it. In front of everyone, I reminded her, without raising my voice. Guard forced her down. She screamed as she was pushed to the ground without resistance allowed. Ethan's people tried to move, but they were immediately restrained, completely outmatched within seconds. She was forced to bite into raw meat, crawling across the floor, humiliation replacing her earlier triumph. The loudest voices from before stepped back quickly, some even lowering their phones, no longer filming. Anyone who touched me earlier, remember all of you, I said quietly. No one met my eyes. Silence turned heavy, suffocating, pressing down across the entire room. Covered, I added, and the manager nodded repeatedly, his tone now almost overly respectful. I signaled for my lawyer. Divorce papers were brought in immediately and placed between us on the table. Ethan hesitated only briefly before signing, as if still believing he had something left to control. I looked at him, From now on, you're nothing to me, I said without emotion or hesitation. He gave a tight smile. You think this changes anything? He asked, though his voice betrayed tension. I didn't answer. I simply glanced at the time. Call your father. Now, I said. He frowned slightly, confused, but before he could react, the doors burst open again forcefully. Oh. His father rushed in wearing sleepwear, clearly dragged out in urgency, barely even fully dressed. He didn't look at Ethan first. He walked straight to me and lowered his head immediately. I'm sorry, he said, and that single sentence shattered whatever composure remained in the room. Who is she? Carter family. Is that the Carter family? Is that the Carter family? Whispers spread like wildfire instantly. People stepped back. Phones came out again, but now for verification, not entertainment or ridicule. The air felt thinner, heavier, like everything had shifted beyond anything they had expected tonight. Ethan's face slowly drained of color. He looked at me like seeing me for the first time. Blake Group, was you? Uh-huh, he asked, voice unsteady, disbelief finally breaking through everything. I met his gaze. You built nothing without me, I said, not loudly, but enough to end it. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, his voice cracking under the weight of realization. I smiled faintly. You never listened, I said, and that answer hit harder than anything else. He stepped forward, trying to reach for me, but I moved back slightly, stopping him immediately. Don't, I said, and he froze, finally understanding the distance that could never be crossed again. Would you forgive me? And the entire room waited for my answer in silence. I looked at him and asked only one question in return, steady and precise. If I really couldn't pay tonight, would you have stopped them? I asked quietly. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. No answer, no defense, nothing left to hold on to. In that moment, even he understood the truth he could no longer escape from or deny. I turned and walked toward the exit. The door was opened for me before I reached it. Cold night air rushed in, sharp and clean, cutting through everything left behind in that room. Behind me, whispers began again. Phones lit up, calls were made, calculations already starting somewhere. I didn't look back, 'cause tonight they thought they were watching me being publicly humiliated and destroyed. Oh God. But in reality, the ones being dismantled one by one were every single person who stood there.